samasta jana kalyane niratam karunamayam namami chinmayam devam sadgurum brahma vidvaram vasudeva sutam devam kamsa chanura mardanam devaki paramanandam krishnam vande jagadgurum tvameva mata cha pita tvameva tvameva bandhusya sakha tvameva tvameva vidya dravidam tvameva tvameva sarvam mama deva deva tvameva sarvam gurudeva deva. Hari Om. We are analyzing self-realization, what exactly it means, and how do I realize, why should I realize also, and how do I know that I am self-realized if I realize it. And we already said we cannot know if other people have realized or not. There is no litmus test because it is a subjective knowledge, and I will never know if someone X, Y, Z are realized. But at the same time, Scripture says that you approach a teacher who is realized and who can teach properly. Shastrasya, and who is Sotriyaha Brahmanishtam. So tad vijnanartham sa gurum eva abhigacchets samitpanihi sotriyam brahmanishtam. This comes in the Mundaka Upanishad that says you approach a teacher who is well established in this knowledge. And just now you are saying that I will never know that he has realized or not. How am I going to know then? So essentially, I can never know whether my teacher or somebody has realized, but for me to know, he should be at least sotriya. He should have the knowledge of what it is and how to teach that to me, because I don't know, and if he knows, he should know how to teach me. So he should have the capacity to communicate the knowledge of what he knows. This is true for any knowledge, in a language that I can understand. He has to come down to my level and lift me up. And for me, since I cannot evaluate whether he realized or not, I can evaluate whether he knows science or not by when he talks about that which cannot be known by any other way. By nature of his knowledge, I can evaluate, but whether he himself is established in the knowledge, I don't know. But Scripture says you have to approach that teacher. So the best thing to do is approach a teacher who knows how to teach, and who knows obviously how to teach means he should know what to teach also. But I should know, or I should feel in my own self that my teacher has realized, so that I can have a faith in his teaching. So for me to have a proper faith that what he says is indeed true, and therefore faith itself is being defined as that Shastrasya Guru Vakyasya Satya Buddhyavadarana Sa Shraddha. Shraddha means faith. That is that faith where a disciple or a student has complete faith that my teacher and what he teaches is indeed true. Then only I can realize. Otherwise, whether the teacher realized or not is not the point. I should have the faith in the teaching itself for me to realize. So that for that I need to have a faith that my teacher is realized so that I can realize. It is independent of whether teacher realized or not. My faith can take me beyond. That is important. Now let's ask the question. Says, just now we said using a dark room example, where when I am sitting in a dark room, when somebody asks me if there is a chair, they say I don't know because I cannot see. But if you ask me, are you there? Then I say, of course I am. So for me to know that I am there as an existing entity, and also I am a conscious entity, I don't need a light, I don't need to see myself, I don't need to hear myself. I don't need any of the sense input for me to know I am there. Because I am there, I validate the senses. I cannot see because I have to there to see or not to see. That I don't see is also because I am there to see, but that is object cannot be seen because of non-conducive environment to see. For pramana to operate, all other things beside my eyesight, light should be there and my eye should be open, all those necessary conditions have to be there. But for me to know that I am there, I am self-existing, self-conscious entity, therefore self-revealing entity. I know myself as I am. So even in the dark room I know I am, then you are self-realized. Because you know you are there. I know I am there, but I take that I am there as this body, this mind, this intellect. So there is a confusion there. I know I am conscious entity, I am existent entity, but I taking myself as unconscious entity because any this is, as we discussed, is an object which is not a conscious entity. Therefore, what is required is that the existent consciousness that I am has to be understood clearly what exactly that I am stand for. For that I need a teacher because I do not know myself. So ignorance of myself is there even though I know I exist and even though I know I am conscious. Then why are you looking for? We are looking for the third aspect. What is the third aspect? Not only I am Sat, not only I am Chit, but I am Ananda. Ananda means happiness. I am Ananda. That means if I am already Ananda, that means that's what Satchidananda Swarupam of Brahman. Brahman means full, therefore there is nothing else we need, all that we discussed before. So if I am infinite, then I cannot and I need not look for happiness. The very fact that I am looking for and longing for happiness because I want this, I want this, I want this, the very search for happiness means that I do not know I am the very source of happiness. Even logically I can prove that I am the source of happiness because we just said coffee doesn't give me happiness. Happiness because of coffee comes from my own self. Yes sir, logically understood, but I will understand more with the cup of coffee or after the cup of coffee. So if that is the case, that means I have not really understood as a fact. I understood only as understood as a thought. This is what J. Krishnamurti talks about. It's not an understanding as a thought, but it's an understanding as a fact. What Vedanta calls is essentially not only an understanding as a thought is an indirect knowledge, but an understanding as a fact is a direct, immediate knowledge called Pratyaksha Pramanam. I can see it's a chair right there. I don't have to see anything else. That I may say something else, but that I may call it some other name, but I know that is because I can see. It's as seeing as that which is direct. A simple example I can tell is a friend of mine has gone to Latin America, South America, and came back and said, where were you? I said, I went to South America and I was going in a lot of beautiful rainforests and all that, and we were going through that. It's a beautiful, and we saw one of the most beautiful bird that in the world. I had never seen that, he said. Bird? I know what bird is, but he said, what is beautiful about that bird? That bird is called Agou bird. Agou bird? I never heard of that. Because it has a one wing made of silver and other wing made of gold. Very strange, very beautiful. So the silver is called Ag and gold is called Au in chemistry. So Ag, Au is Agou bird. I made up, don't know, but it tells you the fact of the matter here. So he gave a complete description of that ago bird, and that I have the knowledge now. And I went to encyclopedia or Google and find out what are the ago bird characteristics and all that, which my friend had described and which is concurred, some that he didn't know also there. So I got all the information. So I have a knowledge of ago bird. I have not seen it, but I have a knowledge of ago bird. This is called indirect knowledge, paroksha jnanam, indirect knowledge that I hear about ago bird. Suppose I go to the South America and happen to go into those forests, and suddenly I saw that bird. What bird? Ago bird. With a one side with a silver and other side gold wings and all that, so beautiful. My mind got arrested seeing that, my God, this is ago bird. I didn't know about ago birds at that before, but I seeing now, recollecting the knowledge gained from the hearsay and applying the knowledge when I am seeing directly what it is. That's called pratyaksha pramana, but that pramana means means of knowledge, direct seeing. If I don't know anything about a bird, and the first time I am seeing that bird, then I only say, oh, that's a beautiful, what is it called? I am seeing it, but I don't know what it is. Whereas here I know it, I didn't see it, but now when I see it, not only I am seeing, I am knowing it because the recollection of the knowledge gained previously by reading all that. Now you understand what is a paroksha jnanam? Paroksha means indirect knowledge, at what J.K. Krishnamurti calls it as a knowledge of the thought process only, at the thought level, but also seeing as it is. Where I apply the knowledge here, where what I see and what I know are matching together, therefore now I have complete knowledge. That's called aparoksha jnanam, immediate direct knowledge supported by previous knowledge that I have. Clear? If I have just studied, seen that bird, I won't have the knowledge. I'm seeing it, I know that there is a bird beautiful, but I don't know what it is. And I don't know, I have the characteristic of it other than what I'm seeing, that what I can gather from seeing. But if my background knowledge is there of reading all the things, then I can match with what I see and what I read. Same thing happens in the self-realization. I do not know who I am. How do you know you do not know who I am? The very fact that I am taking what I am not as I am is a direct evidence that I do not know who I am. So ignorance of the self-ignorance is evident, self-evident. Why? Because I am taking what I am not as I am, not for transactions and drama. An actor may take the role of a king, act like a king, but he knows he is not a king. He is an actor only playing a role of a king. That's why he can play beautifully. Because he is unaffected whether kingdom comes or kingdom goes, because he is not affected. He will be a millionaire as he was before. Same way, whether things come or not, things doesn't come also. I am unaffected provided I know I am not this, but I am taking the role of this for drama purpose. As long as I am in this scene, on the stage. So as long as I am in the stage of life, I can play the beautiful role, then drama is a play. So life becomes only a play, and life becomes a beautiful, whether it is a suffering or enjoyment. Those are parts of the drama. A beggar role also will be beautifully played, and everybody will congratulate, hey, you cried very well in that scene. They compliment him because he was crying on the stage. But he knows he is not really a beggar because he is an actor and playing beautifully with all the background music also. And if somebody people are beating him up, he will go through the beating process because that's a beggar role that has to be done. And his own friend on the outside is beating him now because that is his role. So I can play the role properly if I know that I am not the role but I am something beyond. Same way, once I realize who I am, I can play the role properly. For that, I need not only the background knowledge and as well as direct visualization of who I am. So now we are talking about two aspects. One is an indirect knowledge of all about myself and immediate recognition of that true nature as I am. So the paroksha jnanam and aparoksha jnanam both are required in complete knowledge of anything. This has to be clear because I know I am existent and I am conscious, but then why am I searching for? I don't searching for happiness. What is happiness? Anandameva anandam. Infiniteness alone is, limitless alone is happiness. That means I have to recognize that I am infinite, which is contradictory to my day-to-day experiences. So in the role of which I don't feel I am infinite, but the scripture says you are infinite. Therefore, the gap between the two has to be bridged by proper understanding what is that I am that scripture refers to and what is that I am taking myself as right now. That gap requires a study of Vedanta and also an analysis. So now we are looking for self-realization involves clear understanding of what is that self that I want to realize and how do I realize. So even though it is self-revealing and self-existent entity, because I had to drop in the process all my confusion about what I take myself as what I am not. I cannot drop that unless I know who I am. So these are called in English called catch-22. I cannot drop it unless I know, and unless I know I cannot drop it. So both are circular arguments. Then how do I proceed about it? Oh, studied because I don't know the agau bird. I went to Google and find out what is all about agau bird. So where can I find about myself who I am? Who can teach me properly? So in principle it says this is where the scriptural requirement is not to make me know who I am because I am self-evident, self-revealing. At the same time I had to drop the ignorance of myself as because of the ignorance only I am taking what I am not as I am. That ignorance is obvious because when I say I am equal to this, an impossible equation because every ego is nothing but I am this. And that is the very proof that I don't know myself. Also I said I can take the role of I am this knowing very well I am no. That's a separate issue. But before I do, first I should know who I am, then I can play the role. So I should know that I am an actor, then I can play any role in the drama depending on the type of drama that is being played. Because I can play any roles, that is a character role, not only a hero role, any role I can play, depending on my interest there. Therefore, the pramana is required, a means of knowledge is required to remove the ignorance. That's what we have to establish right now. Why Vedanta is a pramana? Why Vedanta is required? What about the other religions? All these questions we asked in the first talk itself. Vedanta is that which reveals you the highest truth. And conversely, because this is other people may not agree with this kind of arguments, conversely, that which reveals the highest truth is Vedanta. Veda means knowledge and Anta means ultimate, and that which is the ultimate knowledge is Vedanta. Now we see what can be Vedanta. Number one, all objective sciences can be ruled out. You may be a great physics, you can acquire quantum mechanics and all that. And some people recently told in the physics, quantum mechanics can discover the self-realization, consciousness. Is analyzing consciousness by quantum mechanics. This is all humbug, because consciousness cannot be analyzed, because for analysis consciousness has to be objectified. Consciousness cannot be an object. Object is inert, unconscious. So the very objectification makes that object unconscious. So you are losing already. The one who is analyzing consciousness, he is a conscious entity. And he cannot analyze himself because he doesn't have the tools to analyze. The tools that he is using are not operatable, because quantum mechanics is still a tool that analyzes things that are smaller than, say, some size factor is there. As you go to smaller and smaller, the classical mechanics is not operable, because then you are talking about the atoms and electrons and so on and so forth, where you cannot objectify, because the position, and this is called Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. The very inquiry into that disturbs the system. That's what essentially. So when I try to find out I am disturbing the system, therefore what I get is not really what it is already. So that's a part of the problem of the nature of the quantum mechanics. Now, we are ruling out across the board. Even though I come from a science background, we should analyze this clearly, because any objective science that we say, because scientists think that only that is a science, and that's why the object scientist asks us, there is no God because I don't see him, because he wants to see God as an object. If God is an object, he is limited by other objects, therefore he cannot be God. A fundamental fact is, God cannot be inside the creation, God cannot be outside the creation. That's a fundamental fact. God cannot be inside the creation because God becomes limited by the creation. So there cannot be any more God. So you cannot see him. God cannot be outside the creation because outside has to be created. So outside is any creation has to be infinite. Therefore God can neither be inside nor outside. We'll come back to this, because then God itself is nothing but creation only. Now, Vedanta, the objective sciences cannot analyze the subject I am. Please be careful. Objective sciences can never analyze the subject I am, which is existent conscious entity, because the tools that they are using are not amenable to analyze the subject. Repeat again. The objective sciences can never analyze the subject I am, because the tools, very tools of analysis, are not amenable to analyze the subject. Therefore, there is no way an objective science or a scientist can discover. Discover is the removing the cover, or ignorance can be removed through the process of the objective analysis. That's number one. Number two, any objective science or discovery or analysis requires a subject, because object cannot analyze the object by itself, because object is inert. For any analysis requires a subject who is a conscious entity, who cannot be analyzed. You follow now? So subject cannot be analyzed by the objective analysis, and object cannot be analyzed without having a subject. This is very strange. Therefore, objective sciences can never discover the subject and I, whereas the subject I can discover himself by proper analysis. Now, Vedanta is a means of knowledge. Is it objective or subjective? How can you say the other? It's not like other sciences. It is a science only because it is pointing out in the direction for me to shift my mind in that direction. So it says consciousness. It says not consciousness is not an object, but look at in the direction where you are not unconscious entity. Therefore, it's a consciousness. You are not a non-existent entity. Therefore, you are an existent quantity. More than that, you are infinite. Therefore, anything finite cannot be you. This is a very statement that requires a deeper analysis of the mind. Because he says, I am looking for myself. Where? Oh, you have to go into deep meditation. Meditation on what? On the subject. You cannot meditate on the subject because you are objectifying the subject. No, you have to go beyond the mind. This is only in the mind level, subject object. Who has to go beyond the mind? Consciousness? Consciousness doesn't have to do anything because it's infinite already. So I identified with the mind has to say, I'm going beyond the mind. Who? Again, another thought. Going beyond the mind is another thought. No, in the process of that, it is objectless awareness. It happens. What happens? What is objectless awareness? And who will know that if there is no subject? These are all puzzling questions that one has to understand. Why self-realization becomes more difficult? Only because of all these confusing words. It makes it more difficult. But why it is difficult? Because I am not ready to leave my wrong notions easily. That is the problem. Why self-realization is difficult? Not because self is self-evident self all the time. But what is problem is I am not able to drop my misconceptions about myself. Because this is so ingrained not only from the birth to the death, but life after life after life, I am living with that wrong notion, and it is not easy for me to drop it. Now, how that can happen, we have to discuss, because not only the ignorance of myself, but there is a byproduct of the ignorance that is causing a problem. So now we are addressing self-realization in trying to solve a problem where even though it's self-revealing and self-existing, I'm not able to claim I am infinite only because of I am a finite is a notion is deeply ingrained in my mind. Therefore, I had to get rid of that first. Only when my mind is open enough to ready to accept the other possibilities than the impossible that I am equal to this, then only then I can go into the correct knowledge. So there is a process of discarding it. So process is not for self-realization. Process is only discarding the wrong notions about myself. Is it clear? There may be a procedural process in terms of step by step by step. I am not this, I am not this, I am not this, at a time to go beyond all this also. This we will try to explore. So exploration is why Vedanta becomes a pramana, or why we need Vedanta, or what kind of knowledge we need in order to realize the self. Any other scriptures can do this, can do that. That becomes a Vedanta. Now we are defining Vedanta in a different way. Vedanta is that which provides me a means to discover myself. And any philosophy, any religion that takes me to that becomes the highest knowledge. Therefore it is Vedanta. Other people may not accept this, but I am practical minded, because that's exactly what we are trying to solve a problem. We are not worried about Vedanta, the Vedas as a means or something. No, we are looking at the knowledge itself, a means of knowledge to gain that knowledge. With that, we'll stop here and continue tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.